Hey guys, Veronica here. So I was just sitting down to start another flat of seeds, and I was thinking about all of the questions I've gotten lately in terms of seed starting, and decided I would set up my camera and document this to see if maybe I can't help some of you guys out. If you're struggling with starting plants from seed, this is basically just going to be like the things that I've thought about and have learned from along the way over the years. Let's get to it. So this is a very basic, just like your typical big box hardware store germination tray. Comes with a clear plastic dome lid, which will be your best friend in this process, as well as a tray that holds a little bit of water. And then it came with a flat of these little 6-pack cells, but I cut them apart because I like to have the ability to only plant 6 of a variety versus, an entire flat of a variety. And I like to also be able to manipulate them, so as something germinates, I can pull it out, whereas its neighbor might, take a few more days or even another week. It works out better for me. But anyway, leave them together, cut them apart, doesn't matter. However works best for you. So as you can see, these are just little 1-inch cells. That's important knowledge because one of the biggest mistakes that I made for years, really, when it came to seed starting and just working with soil and planting mediums in general, was to take whatever I was using as my planting medium directly out of the bag, and in whatever condition it was, whether it was soaking wet because it had been sitting in the rain in bags on like a nursery lot for weeks, or whether it was bone dry, whatever condition it was in, take it out of the bag, put it directly into your planting container, and then water it. Now, this is a mistake I've learned. I don't know how long it took me to learn. This is like the dumbest, but yeah, I know that this was also something I did. So anyway, this was a mistake that I learned the hard way for a really long time. And one of the reasons that we don't do it this way, as far as I'm concerned, is because when you go and you just put a dry medium inside of a container like this, and then you just water it over the top, or maybe water it from the bottom, a few things happen. I mean, one thing that happens is all of those pieces of aggregate, all of these bits of, dirt and perlite and vermiculite and coconut coir and peat moss and whatever, your medium is, if it's in a loose setup like this, all of those pieces will collapse down as the water passes through them. So as you're trying to hydrate it and everything is collapsing down, that's basically decreasing the amount of pore space that those roots, as they're waking up, have to kind of navigate. So it's making it a little more difficult for that seedling to get going. It's also keeping potentially dry pockets as well as soggier pockets in various quantities throughout the cells. And I just had a higher rate of incidence with fungus gnats, to be honest, when you start digging into, that level of watering. So the workaround that I wouldn't even say I've developed. I'm pretty sure that I've had people tell me this for years, and I was just like, yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter that much. But really getting to know what well-hydrated substrate, soil, planting medium, whatever, feels like. And so what I'll do, and this isn't dry, I started watering it, and I was like, oh, shoot, I should film this. But what I'll do is get yourself a 5-gallon bucket. Like, seriously, if you don't have something that you're mixing, whatever you're planting, amendments and soils and whatnot, if you don't have a container that you're already doing that in, just get a 5-gallon bucket. You'll use it a lot more than you think you will. Get yourself a 5-gallon bucket and put 2.5 gallons of your planting mix in, or less. If you're only doing a couple of 6-packs, then a gallon, however much you need. But I'll usually do 2 gallons and then work through it over the course of the next couple of days. And then what you do is, so what we're looking for, and it's going to be something that you're going to develop a feel for, I promise you. What we're looking for is a hydration level on this substrate of a almost well wrung out sponge. And so when you squeeze it really hard, you can see there's a little bit of liquid that will drip out if I squeeze it really, really hard. And that's basically what we're looking for. It could even have a little bit less liquid than that, and you could just be really fighting to get one drop out. But if it's soggy and you can easily squeeze water out, it's too wet. It's gonna start developing, or be at least a more hospitable place for fungi and fungal gnats, the sorts that you don't want. And if it's too dry, your seed's not going to germinate. But hitting that sweet spot, like really starting to get a feel for, I don't want to do this. I'm going to like I've already made a mess. I'm gardening inside, right? But let's see if I can get a close up here. That one was kind of a dry handful. But I promise you, you'll start to get a feel for it and then start to adjust. And this is actually, because I wasn't able to get a drop out of either of those handfuls, it's actually not hydrated enough for my liking. But you'll start to get a feel for this. And so I just take a little watering can to whatever the mix is, swirl it around the top of this bucket a few times, and then fold in the soil from there to sort of evenly disperse. Sometimes if you have a lot of cocoa coir or peat moss in your mix, you might need more water. It starts to like absorb and expand. And so we're basically making bread dough, but with soil, where you like hydrate your flour and then you go back and see, is it hydrated enough? Because it absorbs that moisture in your mix. And so you give it some time and it's like the entire composition changes. But I suppose that's true with almost everything in life. So get this all mixed up and do a little squeeze test again. See if we can't get any water out of there. And I can hear it. That's the other thing. You can hear it when it gets kind of squishy. You know that it's starting to get saturated and full. You can feel it. It holds together a little bit better. And so now we have a well-hydrated mix that we are going to put into these 6-packs. We are not going to pack it super firm, but we are going to press it down just enough so that it fills the cells. And so it's just pushing it, just so it's in those cells, really. I don't pack it a lot because I've seen studies on roots in compacted soil. And one of the things that has caused me to change the way that I pack 6-packs with soil, and part of the reason that I don't really want to use a soil blocker either is because of that amount of pressure on the soil. It changes the way that the roots are able to navigate that soil. And when you're talking about, baby seedlings with like fresh baby roots, they need all the help they can get, I think. Like I want strong roots, but also I just want germination. So if we can find a combination thereof between the amount that we pack it down and the amount that they have to push through, like I feel like there's a happy medium there. So once that is done, you have your well-hydrated soil pressed into your 6-packs. Then what you'll do is you'll just basically take your pack of seeds. You'll look on the back, more than likely. You'll look for something that says seed depth, planting depth, something like that, and then figure out how deep that is. And if it's an 1/8 inch, a 1/4 inch surface sow, then just put it on top. If it's a 1/4 inch, sometimes I'll sprinkle a little more soil on top and then just lightly press it down of the well-hydrated soil again. If it's deeper, poke a hole with a chopstick or a fork, tine, or whatever, and push that seed down to the required depth. Most of the depths can be fairly eyeballed, but like try to, if it's an inch deep seed, it probably shouldn't be started in a 6-pack most of the time. A lot of those are direct sow. So that would be, you like your peas and beans and stuff, but usually you're not starting them in 6-packs anyway. And yeah, from there, I put the lid on. I have a ledge that I think I showed in a previous episode. So there's like this ledge in the middle of the house that's always like 85 to 90 degrees, but other places include on top of your refrigerator, maybe in a cabinet above your washer dryer in your laundry room, someplace that stays fairly warm. So anywhere that heat's going to rise in your house is a good spot to put your germination tray. You don't need a heat mat. It can be helpful, but find a nice warm spot. I feel lucky to have a ledge that's perfect for that. So, and then I put the lid on and I wait and I check in like 2 or 3 days. And if everything goes well, and if I got my moisture in this well, if I got it to the right hydration level and it was enough moisture to aid these seeds in germination, then most of them will be popped in the next week. So, I mean, it really is that simple. I don't water after I've planted if the hydration level's right in this mix, because it doesn't make sense to add more water to an already saturated mix. That's just going to be a recipe for like fungal pathogen issues. Like it's just not something that you're looking for in seed starting. So that was probably my biggest lesson, is just get your hydration right in here, and you don't have to bother with watering. The only exception to that rule are seeds that take longer to germinate. If you're looking at anything in like the 3-week range, then you might need to top off the water, bottom water it at some point. But for the most part, I mean, I haven't had a single seed this year yet, including peppers, tomatoes, and eggplants, need additional water to get through that first week of germination in this sort of setup. So yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer them. As always, if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, ding that bell, don't miss a single episode, and follow me on Instagram at FlavorKit for all of this sort of stuff and more. There's always tips and tricks and how-tos. And yeah, until next time, happy gardening.